Okay, I'm just going to show you some basic lesson in constraints. So what's going to happen is we're going to get this to come over here, constrain to this, and this then will drop, and then we'll get this to push it over here again. Okay, so we're going to be working largely in the side view because I mean the principle is the same. So here we go. So first of all, I'm going to animate this. So I'm going to press S, and I'm going to go to frame 15, and I'm going to make this come to here, and then I'll go to frame 30 and I'll make it come just over the top of this cube like this, so it goes like this. Okay, now in frame 30 I'm going to key this on one frame and I'm going to get this moved back to this frame here. Okay, so we've got this space in the middle, so we've got this so far, yeah? Now I want this ball to lift this box. So what I'm going to do is on frame 30 I'm going to click on the ball, then click on the box, and then I go up here where it says constrain. Now there are different types of constraints. There's point constraints, so just constrain something at one point, which means you can still animate or move the rotation. Rotation constraints, it just constrain the rotation, which means you can still animate the translations. And there's parents that constrain both. Or to get the same effect, you can always use both a point and an orient constraint. You can use more than one constraint on the same object. Anyway, so I'm going to select this and then the box, and I'm going to go constrain parent. So in this case, you'll see these channels here. I have a parent constraint. So this box is now translation and orient constraint to the sphere. So now what happens is I'm going to take this sphere, I'm going to key it once here, and then I'm going to go to frame 60, and I'm going to move this sphere, and you can see the box is now attached to it. But there's an issue. You can see the box is attached the whole time, and we don't want that. We want the box to attach at frame 30, not to be attached. But the good news is you can key constraints. So what I'm going to do is the constraint is on the box. So if I go to the box, I can open, and you see under the channels we have the constraints, and this is it here. So I'm going to key it where it says P sphere. This is a constraint. I'm going to key this on frame 30. Yeah. Now I'm going to go to frame 9 and I'm going to key it as 0. That means the constraint is off. So now this comes and does what we want it to. Okay. So now we have to drop the box. Right, well, okay. Well, you might imagine what you'd do in this case is you'd select the box again on frame 60. You'd make sure that the constraint was keyed and go to the next frame and you'd unkey it. But that, of course, doesn't give you the desired result. It just puts the box back to where it was. So I'm going to put the constraint back on that again. So how do I get the box to drop? Well, what I do is you use a little bit of smoke and mirrors. You duplicate the box. I'll just duplicate it here by pressing Control D, and I've got another cube. And now on frame 60, and for the first cube, I'm going to make sure the visibility is keyed on at 60, but off at 61. And for cube 2, I'm going to make sure it's doing the opposite. It's keyed on at 61 and keyed off at 60. So now what happens is I can animate, I can key this here, frame 61, and say frame 66, I'm going to make that drop down like so. And so we've got this so far. The drop doesn't look very good, so I might go in and just change that slightly. I'm not going to spend too long on this because break the tangents here, a bit like we did with the ball, and I'll make it bounce, not bounce, it drop like that. And I might make it come up a little bit, just slightly up in the air, bit of rotation. Make sure that this is also the right kind of arch, have it coming back down again, and break that tangent and make it the right kind of arch. So we have this, and then alter the rotations in Z. I'm going to take the rotations off it so that we've got this. Yeah, nothing special, but I mean, it's, you can work into the animation if you wanted to do this to test it. Yeah, and now what's going to happen is we're going to get the triangle to push this over to where it was previously. So it was over here, we're going to get it to push it over here, right? So how do we do that? Well, one of the things you will find, I'll just show you this very quickly with a different, I'm going to create a, I'll create a cylinder for our change. I'm going to pull it over here, give it a different texture. So I'll go and get a surface shader, and this time I'm going to make it green. Right, I'm going to show you something. One thing you will find, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, there's one thing I haven't mentioned about constraints. When you constrain something, you can, I'll show you the difference. If I'm going to constrain this to this, I can go press on this and then press on this and go constrain. I'm going to do a point constraint to show you the difference. And there's a box here when you open up the options, when you go constrain point, you go to the options, it says maintain offset. Now if I maintain offset, if I click on that and I press apply, I'll show you what happens. The box is constrained, but it's constrained in exactly the same place that the original constraint was made in. Okay, I'm going to just delete that constraint. You can just delete these, and I'm going to show you something else. If I click on this now and I click on it's actually a NURBS code, and I thought it was a polygon, doesn't matter, and I take that off and I press apply, then all of a sudden it jumps to the center point. It lines up the centers. So you have to be kind of wary of what you want. In the case of what we're using, we're not. We want to maintain an offset. Okay. So I think I've got two spheres here. I'm just gonna get rid of this. Where is it? That. Okay, I don't. So I'll get rid of this. I don't have that. Must have duplicated that by accident. Anyway, so we've got this. Now, I want this to push this. Now this is animation on it. So if you already have animation on an object, then it is not a good idea to constrain it to another object. So there is another way around this. So when this box drops here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this cone moving towards it. So I'm going to start it animating. We're about frame, say about frame 70 I'll start it, and then I've got to say frame 80. Frame 80 will be right here. Yeah. Now, as opposed to simply selecting this and clicking on this and then constraining it, I'll show you what happens if I do that. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click on that and I'm going to press constrain, constrain, parent. Now you notice those channels go green. You do not want green channels. That means you could sometimes this can work, but often you will have problems if you have green channels. So you either want them blue, which means they're constrained, or you want them red, which means that they are keyed. I'm just going to get rid of this by deleting these. So what do we do? Well, we do the same thing we did before. We're going to frame 80. I'm just going to press Control D, bring in a new cube, and I'm going to key the visibility. So this one, cube, the original cube, is going to be on frame 79. I'm going to key the visibility on, and on frame 80 I'm going to key the visibility off. And cube 3 I'll do the opposite. Frame 79 I'll key the visibility off, key, and in frame 80 I'll key the visibility on. Yeah. Now cube 3 there is no animation on it, not like cube 2 which has the bounce animation. Now I can select this and select this cube, and I can go constrain parent. Yeah? So the cube goes like that, and then this goes like this. And I'll continue this to push this cube over here. I think it was here. Yeah? So there. Yeah? And because I've keyed the visibility, I don't even have to key the constraints in this one. It doesn't matter that this cube is probably, the other cube is still here, but invisible, because we can't see it. Yeah? And then so I'll go to frame 90. Now I want to get rid of the constraint here. But what will happen if I get rid of the constraint? Well, if I go to this and try to key the constraint, say at frame 95, if I go to the cone and I key it, key selected, and if I go to 96 and put this at 0, the same problem happens. So I'm going to leave that constraint on, and I'm going to do the same thing again. All we have to do is, if we want it on, say, if we want a switch in 94 to 95, I'll key the visibility of this on 94. I'll key it on. I'll make sure there's a key on that frame, because even if there's a, when you see it red, it simply means it's keyed. It doesn't mean there's a key on that particular frame. And now I'm going to go to frame 95, and I'm going to key this off. And I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to press Control D to get another cube, so the fourth cube. And I'm going to do the opposite. At 94, I'm going to key this here, but I'm going to key it off. And on frame 95, I'm going to key this on. And then all that's left for me to do now is to key this triangle again, and I'm going to move this back to where it was before. Yeah. And then if I want, I can just have, let's make this a little bit longer, say 140. I can always have the ball drop down. Now, so if I press on this, I can have it drop down. There. Let it go up a bit. Down a bit. And I can just go and make sure that these curves are appropriate by breaking the tangent here. I've got it broken here, and then breaking the tangent here. So we have that. So what you end up with is that goes to that, goes to that, goes to that, goes to that, and that. So I actually have 4 cubes in this, but really what you're looking to is trying to make this as simple as possible. You don't want to be getting yourself in complicated knots. And in my next video, I'm going to show you a slightly better way of perhaps using constraints. It involves parenting, but it gives you the flexibility of actually being able to animate something while it's constrained. But that will be in the next video.